I do think that a lot of projects might have a goal like to bring people back to the office or for
Mm.
staff retention or bringing people into the restaurant, for
Yeah,
example. It's not my area of expertise, but
yeah,
as an example, and actually to think deeper than that and who are we actually talking to and
definitely.
who are we engaging with and why do we want them back in the office as well? Is it about mental health or is it
Yeah,
about physical health or is it about them engaging with the brand and
yeah,
understanding the brand values? Do you know what I mean? It's so much
definitely.
deeper than simply bringing them back.
Yeah, definitely. And they're looking, I think the new generation and the new workforce that's coming into action now are looking for, stability with their employer. They're looking for perks with their employer.
Mhm.
They're looking for a lot of different things, not just a job now. And I think that's really important to understand, when we're speaking to the big CEOs of businesses and who they're wanting to attract to make sure that we're really aligned with that as well.
Mhm.
Because you're exactly right. We're in a post-pandemic world now.
Mhm.
Obviously, after COVID, our office spaces weren't being utilized, they were empty, and people were struggling to get their employees back into the office. But what we were seeing were, our hotel lobbies and our coffee shops really full and bustly with people working away on laptops. So they obviously felt comfortable to go into those sort of more hospitality driven environments to go and work rather than their workspace,
Mhm.
which is why we're seeing obviously the trend now of our workspaces feeling like hotel lobbies.
Mhm. Mhm.
You've got the beautiful lounge settings that work because they've got obviously plug sockets that you can sit there and work at. You've got relaxed dress codes, you've got more sort of biophilia within spaces.
Mhm.
And the blend between sort of more commercial workspaces and hospitality is completely, yeah, exactly, which is brilliant to see as well and
Mhm.
really exciting from a creative point of view to sort of
Yeah.
really flex those muscles in that area. The way that we design and create those sort of sustainable communities is by the senses. So at Jolie, we look at all five senses when we design. So, that's sight, touch, taste, even potentially in restaurants, smell and soundtrack. The reason we design in this way is because you experience these senses every day. Even sort of walking in here today,
Mhm.
there's something beautifully visual in front of you, there's a soundtrack in the background, there's naturally a scent as you walk in, and they're the most memorable senses. Another example of that is of materiality in spaces is airports, for example.
Mhm.
So when you go into an airport, it's all sort of hard finishes. You've got
Mhm.
sort of marble finishes everywhere. And the reason for that is because they want you to transition immediately from, security to your gate
As
as
fast as
quickly as
possible to
possible.
go.
Exactly, as quickly as possible. Whereas obviously we don't want that to happen in a workspace. We want people to, transition quite, calmly and slowly
Mhm.
throughout the space. So we'll bring in sort of softer textures underfoot to really sort of slow down the pace and bring down the heart rate so that you experience the space in a much more sort of calm manner.
So that's in touch.
Yes, that's in touch. Yeah. Smell is a really interesting one and probably my favourite one.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know. I've learned quite a lot about it recently, in recent years, which is really great. But smell does have it's the strongest sense. So hence why everyone says they can smell their ex's perfume. There's a reason for that.
Interesting.
It's linked to your old memory bank, so your old factory settings,
Mhm.
and it's the most memorable sense of them all. Um, we bring scent through in all our spaces, commercial, hotel, bar, restaurant, whatever it may be. And the reason for that is we look at the properties associated with it. So we don't just pick a scent because it smells nice, but we pick it because of the properties. So, for example, bergamot, that's quite an uplifting property. So we'll bring that through in spaces where you want to feel a little bit more uplifted or energized. Whereas sandalwood is a lot more of a sort of calming and a relaxant. So we'll bring that through in potentially, meeting room settings or something similar to that. But sort of scent is evolving more and more and more. I think more people are doing their own scent, especially in the hospitality
Mhm.
sector. Workspace is slowly following that as well. But sort of our aim at Jolie is to make people just feel really well within a project, and scent really does do that in a beautiful, sort of subtle way. When we sort of create our mood boards and our visuals for the spaces, we also have soundtracks playing in the background. Spotify's a great tool for this, for discovering sort of music and sounds as well.
Mm-hmm.
And what we'll do is we'll sort of curate a soundtrack for each project at the beginning. And we even sort of have this running throughout the presentation. So sort of clients can really not only start to see their space, but they can start to hear it, and they can start to smell it as well. And that's something that's really important to us.
I do love how that project's almost the building, regardless of what that journey has
Mm.
been to that point. You can then take control and slow people down,
Yes,
decompress, and kind of like lose some of that potential stress that's built up
exactly. Yeah.
throughout the journey to work. I like that.
Yeah, and we make sure that it's the same for everyone as well. So, whether you're sort of walking through the front door, you have that same experience as if you were cycling and you're coming in through the basement and you're in the shower and change, and then you come up to the ground floor. So, we want to make sure it's that same experience for anyone who's sort of traveling to that building and sort of entering that building themselves. I do think sometimes the accreditations and the certificates really do sort of put a bit of a stamp on creativity sometimes when they don't quite hit the mark.
Mm-hmm.
I think another great example of that is vintage furniture.
Mm-hmm.
The best way that you can be sustainable is to reuse. That's the best way. So we try and bring through, existing furniture pieces, whether that's a coffee table or an upholstered chair, in every
Mm-hmm.
project that we look at. And obviously they don't come with a certificate at all.
Yeah,
They're lucky if you come not broken.
yeah.
So we do try and, uplift them and, make sure, for example, if a project's going for BREEAM Excellence, maybe we look at, just a coffee table there and not sort of an upholstered piece, which will need, the FR treatment on the foam and the
Mm-hmm.
fabric, etc. So it's challenging, but I think we're getting there, and I think we can be creative and add certain elements into certain projects as we work through them.
Yeah. So are clients taking the likes of BREEAM almost as a proof that they've met
Yeah,
particular requirements?
yeah. I think basically the short answer is yes. And again, we can be sort of really creative on that. We're working on a project in Hammersmith in London at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
where they have sort of an existing red terracotta tile in their lobby. And it's quite an ugly terracotta tile, can I just say? But there's lots of it, and this material like stretches. It's like triple height. And what we're actually doing is we're working with the architects on this as well, and we're taking that tile and we're grinding it back down, and we're actually changing it into a clay paint, and adding sort of natural dyes into it. So we're changing the colour of it, and we're going to apply it in the lift cores running up the building. So we're using something that's existing, but amending it and changing it for that use, which is really exciting and quite innovative as well. So we're constantly finding these new ways of sort of redesigning areas, which is great.
That is that is what the world needs.
Yeah,
Like that is
definitely.
brilliant. It
Yeah,
truly is. Like that's really heartfelt as well. I love that.